Good evening to everyone on YouTube and Spotify. Welcome back to another episode of Finding Shangri-La with myself and Kristen. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about our perceptions of reality and exploring the importance of play and allowing yourself to just play. And what we really mean by that when we say the importance of play, like what do we mean by the importance of play? It can mean so many different things. And I think we're going to be talking a bit about inner child play, especially, and allowing our inner child to embrace the moment and to just be and to experience what it needs to experience. You know, like a child kicking its feet in the sand. As adults, we often forget to just allow ourselves to play, to just be free and to express ourselves, to dance, to sing, to draw, to do art, to just express in whatever way that we feel naturally drawn to, because we overthink and we're taught as adults, oh no, you can't do this because it's childish. But what is actually childish? Are we just saying that imagination is childish, or is it that things that a child like or things we liked as a child is childish? What does that actually mean, and how does that stop us from embracing our play? But before any of that, Kristen, a little meditation, I think, to start off with.
Absolutely. That would be so beautiful to share a bit of meditation space with you all. So if we'd like to go ahead and start by connecting our breath, you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And we'll just take a nice deep inhale in together, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Breath in. And release. Breath in. And release. One more nice deep breath in. And release. On the exhale, allowing our shoulders to relax and bringing peace into our bodies. We can imagine ourselves in this moment being filled with light, allowing our body to become relaxed and warm, filling with love and filling with peace. Just allowing yourself to be present in this moment, wherever you are, and sending your body a little bit of love and understanding. If you'd like, we can imagine beautiful roots growing down from the base of our feet into the earth, reaching these roots into the layers of the earth, pressing through the clay and through the rocks, reaching down further into the center of the earth. And in this moment, you are safe. You are protected. And you are loved. And with a nice deep breath in, we'll breathe this grounded energy in from the earth and into our bodies. Breath in. And release. Giving our bodies permission to release any tension or anxieties in this now moment. And whenever you're ready, we can open our eyes and bring our awareness back to this now moment.
Well, I think if anyone wasn't feeling grounded before, Kristen, they definitely will be now. I've just gone from cloud 9 to straight back onto Earth.
Beautiful.
Okay. So let's have a little look. So with how we perceive our realities, everyone experiences reality in so many different ways, and two people can look at the same object. And I want to illustrate this with a stick. So this little stick here that I found in the woods, I'll talk more about where this stick came from and why I have it a little bit later. But two people can look at this same stick and see two very different things. For instance, for me, I see an antler. It just reminds me of like a deer's antler. But for somebody else, it may just look like a stick, a random piece of wood that has no reason being inside a house. And it's just one of those basic ways that we perceive our realities in very different ways to whoever else. 1,000 people can look at the same thing and see 1,000 different images. So then when it comes to putting our collective reality together and saying, okay, this is what reality really is, how do we really figure out what reality is if we see different things, if we perceive everything so different to one another? And again, even looking at the same thing that we all say, okay, this is a cup. Okay, but 1,000 different people look at this. One person sees it as a mixing bowl, and then another person sees it as just a cup that you drink from. But it's the same thing. We're all saying, okay, well, it looks like this, but we perceive it to be used for different things. Therefore, the reality of the object changes, but we're still able to agree. So how does this really work in the sense of consciousness and how we all perceive things? Because it is one of those bizarre questions that we could talk about for years and years and years, is how our perception changes our reality and how it changes even physical properties of objects, how they change depending on how we see them. So, I mean, Kristen, what do you see when you look at this?
I see a wand.
A wand, yeah. And to be honest, I was holding this earlier and I just turned around, I was like,
Still Patrona.
Yeah, that's it. But again, to somebody else, it's just a normal stick. It's not a wand, it's just a stick. But then to some, non-muggles, it's a wand. And even this here, again, it's just a normal stick. But to me, it's kind of like a wand. And the reason that I have these is actually on an experience with LSD. And I was in a forest and I was staring into the fire, and in the fire, and I took a photo of this, and I looked back at the next day and I was really disappointed, because in that moment I looked into the fire and I saw a civilization in the embers. I saw people walking around us, or staircases. It was magical. And then I saw a Native American just appear from the flames, and my eyes were directed towards the sticks. So in the dark of night, with just the firelight to guide me, I came across two sticks that look very different. But in that moment, these looked so powerful and magical. And looking at them with my eyes, they were glowing, and they were just, I could see the power flowing away from them. But when I looked back at them the next day, when the LSD had worn off and I was completely sober again, I thought, well, these don't look the same. Where's the magic gone? Where's the flow gone? Why aren't they glowing anymore? And then there was this piece of woods that, when I collected it again with the same experience, it was kind of like a boat. And it was, I can't describe what it was, why I felt so drawn to it, but it was partly like a boat, but also like an instrument of some kind. And I don't know what the purpose of it. I can't remember what the purpose was. But I just felt this has to be kept. There's something about this that has to be preserved. So just because of a tiny piece of material, a tiny piece of paper with some stuff inside, soaked inside it, I was able to perceive 3 pieces of wood as truly magical material and conduits of pure magic. But to the sober minds, that perception is gone in the background, and we can't quite access it the same. So, Kristen, what is your take on the effects of things like acid and mushrooms, and the reason that we, again, like these sticks, are able to perceive things like magic and alternate realities within this one that we're in currently in our sober minds, that we can't necessarily access otherwise?
So, Aaron, the Instagram audio is cutting out every now and then. So I think we should maybe end the live stream on Instagram and just allow it to be this. If that's all right with you.
Yeah, I'm losing the audio a little bit on this side.
On Instagram. Yeah.
Right. If I switch it over to there, I should be able to hear you.
A little bit better. I just wanted to be acknowledged that it was glitching out on Instagram, so I can't hear you if it's not going to be totally influenced on Insta. So if it's all right with you, we can just end that and continue this beautiful conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Sorry, Instagram. We will definitely include you guys in on the future of this, but for now we are having trouble with the audio syncing up for Insta. So hi, Kelly. It's so good to see you. Please join in on YouTube. If you guys are enjoying this conversation, the link will be posted after, but it is also in the Discord server, okay? Okay, sorry about that. Are we good now though? Can I hear you?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Okay, good. Sorry.
Okay, I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. So I'm really grateful that you brought up the effects of LSD on the perception of reality and how this affects it. So if you break it down scientifically, the LSD actually inhibits you from being able to connect with your pathways in your brain that connect to decision making and planning. And so what it does is it keeps you from being as connected to that part of your brain, and it actually opens up the receptors in your brain that are connected to sensory function and movement. So essentially it brings you from being very in your mind and focused on things going on up here to being more aware of the physical reality that we live in and that we experience, which is why you hear so many stories of people who have taken LSD and have been able to experience, all of these incredible things like the movements or the sounds of the lights, the colors, the like you said, you looked into the flames and you saw, people and everything. And I really feel like it's because you're less out of your mind whenever we're so focused in our mind and on the decision making and the planning aspects of life where we tend to live from, we kind of keep ourselves from being able to experience the physical reality that we live in. And so I know for myself that it has been in many aspects of my life, my own reality comes forward to me whenever I actually do stop and just acknowledge what's happening around me in this now moment, as opposed to being in my mind and thinking about, so if I'm having an experience where, let's just say, Aaron, you and I were sitting here having a conversation, right? In my perception, we are experiencing this beautiful conversation, and I could see you as a dear friend who I've learned and grown with, and it's been absolutely beautiful, and that's my perception of reality, right? But then you can look at it from your perception of reality, where it's like, well, whatever your experiences have been in our communication and in our conversation is going to be how you see the connection between you and I. And so just understanding that seeing your reality comes from a place of understanding the physical things happening between us, but also understanding the non-physical aspect. And I think in order to really be able to tap into that, we have to be able to get out of our minds and get into our hearts and really be able to focus in on that, the sensory perceptions that we so often choose not to utilize.
Absolutely. And many psychedelics tend to get you out of your head. It's easy to have all these thoughts jumbled up and you don't know what to do with them, and you don't know how to say them or how to physicalize them or verbalize them. And a lot of psychedelics take that from your brain and takes it into your heart space, so you can really feel that, which is why when you're influenced by psychedelics, you feel that love and you feel that connection to everything. And acid really, or LSD, really intrigues me because of the physical changes in reality. And our perceptions of reality are determined by our previous experiences. Again, take it back to the stick. You can see this as a deadly weapon or a wand, something magical, or just a stick. It depends. Maybe somebody's really injured you with a stick in the past, so every stick you see reminds you of a weapon. So your previous experiences of the world around you determine your perception of what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. But with LSD, it takes it a step further and shows you a world beyond what you can physically experience. And by this, I'm really getting at how the field could become so malleable and changeable, and you almost see the energy and everything begin to flow. And the interesting thing is that quantum physics tells us that nothing in reality, nothing in the universe is solid. And if you look into your hand, we see, I can feel it now. It feels very tough. It feels very solid. And if you touch your hand, you will feel, well, this is skin. My hand is solid. It's definitely there. You can't say it's not there because I can feel it. If I hit the table, it's gonna stop where the table starts. But in reality, if you look deep into your hand under a very powerful microscope, there is more empty space in your hand than there is anything else. And the same in reality. Most of the universe is made up of empty space. So nothing is actually solid because there is space between even the smallest cells in the universe. So science, or conventional science or psychology, would say that what you're experiencing in an LSD trip or even a mushroom trip or any other kind of psychedelic experience is essentially psychosis or a form of psychosis, whether short-term or long-term. So my thinking is it psychosis? Is it the brain being distorted in a negative way? Or is psychosis a form of the brain accessing some form of alternate reality that we can't normally perceive? And because that hasn't been the consensus between people, our reality is, the idea of sanity and insanity only exists because we agree what insanity or sanity means. If you say, I see dead people everywhere, somebody might say you're insane, and another person may go, oh, so do I. Therefore, between those two people, seeing dead people, well, that's not insanity. That is more sane than if you can't see, because you're seeing what's really there behind the veil. But to somebody who doesn't see people, they'd say, well, you're crazy, you're insane, you need medication. So is it really psychosis, or is it accessing parts of reality that we can't normally perceive, because we are only experiencing 0.1% of the visible spectrum in the universe is what we experience when we're sober. So how much more of that are we experiencing under an LSD trip? Or is it just our brains going insane and experiencing psychosis or some kind of mental disorder while we're in that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm not a scientist. I don't know all the details about it, but in the research that I have done, I've learned that whenever somebody does take LSD, they're actually activating 65% more of their brain than what we use on a daily basis. And what this means is that your brain is actually triggering chemical trails throughout your brain, connecting pathways that don't normally get ignited or lit up. And so it's actually allowing you to access more. So from my perception of reality, when it comes to LSD or taking any other sort of, psychedelic inhibitor, it would be that it's actually opening you up to more of your reality and connecting you to more of what's happening around you. I know in my experience, I had on one of the ceremonies that I took with LSD, it was very much connected with music, and I was able to feel the music as if it were ribbons in the air, and I played with them just as though they were physically in my hands. It wasn't a imagination or seeing things, but it was very much a physical reality of the moment. And so being able to connect with that in an LSD trip was something that really opened me up to the ability to manipulate and work with energy while dancing. And so being able to see the power of feeling that energy and seeing the colors of it and feeling it move around my body and interacting with my own body. Because if we go back to the fact that we're all vibrating atoms bouncing off of each other, and just like this crystal is nothing but vibrating atoms bouncing off of one another, it's no different than my hand, right? But somehow these atoms, these particles, are interacting with each other. Physically, we can't see it. Physically, it looks like it's its own separate space. But if you were to zoom in and look under a microscope, you would see that it's actually more empty space than it is solid, right? And so just being able to understand that we are all absolutely malleable, and being able to work with that energy is absolutely beautiful. Being able to work with it now in an ability of not taking any kind of psychedelics, but just being completely sober and saying, I can connect with that energy and utilizing it to control and manipulate my reality. So for example, if I'm having a day where I feel like my energy is really stagnant and I'm not, maybe I'm in a depressed mood, or I don't feel like, moving very much, what I'll do is I will remember the fact that I am an energy being and there's energy all around me. And I use that energy to move and manipulate my own energy field that allows this energy to be released from my space. And then I can feel better. And it really does work. It helps me on my day-to-day basis. If I'm feeling stagnant, I get up and I move and I shake it out, and I get that energy that's within my space moving, and then it lifts my mood. It encourages me to do things. And so I think that it's really important whenever we're talking about our realities and what we're experiencing, and understanding that you have the ability to change your reality, and in maybe not in the big ways that you may want. Like it maybe you can't just go out and buy that new house or have that new car, that new girlfriend, whatever it may be, but you can choose to change the things that you have control over, which is your own emotional state, your own physical state, and choosing things that helps you create that reality that you wish to step into. And so just understanding that you have the ability to do that and creating the opportunities for yourself to step into that.
Yeah. And as we're on the subject of energy being something that we can universally tap into, this is something that all the great civilizations from the past that we now call antiquity, like the Mayans, Babylonians, Sumeria, and the ancient Egyptians, they all knew about the energy of the universe and how we can tap into that energy. And there's, I think it's in France, the Karnik Stones. Now, these stones are positioned very, very specifically, and every stone has magnetic properties. Now, these stones stand, I think they're between like six foot tall and like 13 feet. But they are specifically positioned to connect to the stones around it, collecting the energy and focusing it on a central point. And we can use modern science and measure the electromagnetic energy around these stones and actually in the stones. So what the ancients were doing, they were taking the energy that's collected on the surface of the earth and using these stones that have magnetic properties to actually harness energy from the earth itself. and to focus it on a very specific point. And these points are also called stargates or star portals. And these are points where shamans and other beings would stand and connect to the universe. And this is where you get these stories of traveling across the universe into distant stars and distant planets, because they're actually using energetic portals on Earth, which is why megaliths such as Stonehenge, the Karnik Stones, and even pyramids all around the world, they're positioned specifically and they're built in specific ways to actually act as batteries. And there's even man-made hills all around the world that act as the same way. There's one in, I think it's in Salisbury in the UK, that acts exactly the same as a battery. It's built on certain levels, and at the very top of this level, this hill even, or this mound, the energy is so focused at the center of this small hill. And this was another one of the stargates, and you get incredible stories and little tales and little legends and myths that come from these places. And all they're doing is harnessing energy, because we seem to think, or we seem to have gotten into this way of thinking with the rise of science over the last few hundred years, that if we can't see it, it's not there. Or if it's not part of us, we can't access it. We need to create something else to see it or to feel it or to access it. So this is where science has come in and said, okay, well, there's energy somewhere. Well, how can we put it into here? And we created things like batteries. And now electricity is an interesting one, because it's gone on a bit of a tangent here from the original topic, but electricity, if you think about it, is our physical creation of the natural energy that we're picking up. We're trying to say, okay, well, there's energy there. Well, we need to put it into something that we can see. So we can build wires and we can create things with modern electricity that we can see and we can use in that way. But the ancients used the same power as what we use. We use electricity, but they were using natural energy, which is the purest form of electricity. And they were accessing it with just their bodies and tapping into universal energy that had so much power that we couldn't comprehend it today.
Wow.
And I find it interesting how psychedelics allow us to feel that energy, just as you would see the ribbons of music, or you'd feel the ribbons. And music is just waves of sound hitting you. So it makes sense why you would feel them as ribbons, because it's exactly the same way. It's flowing into you. So you are physically feeling the energy that is in the universe. And this is what psychedelics really allow us to do, is to tap into that natural energy that's always around us. We're a part of the same energy. And when we begin to see, just as you explained with the crystal in your hand, when we begin to see everything in the universe as not just solid, non-malleable material that's not a part of us, and it's like, well, this is completely different. This stick isn't me. This stick is just, it's a stick and it's me. If I see it as, well, this is a part of nature, I am part of nature, therefore we are one and the same, just two different manifestations of the same energy, because that's all it is. I am just a bunch of atoms that decided to cluster into me, and this stick is a bunch of atoms that decided to cluster into a stick. So it is exactly the same thing, just different manifestations. Therefore, we begin to see that our own energy is malleable, and we can harness energy from outside of us, but we can also transfer energy. And then we get into the realms of things like energy healing and energetic transfer between people. And anyone who's mildly empathic would have experienced this at least, sometime in your life, how you really soak up energy from other people and how you have your energy taken away by others, because this is just a form of that energy transfer between living beings. And it can even happen with physical locations, as a physical location can drain you because it's taking your energy. Or other locations, again, like Karnik Stones, like Stonehenge, and all these other megalithic sites, you will experience something very physical. And these sites used to be used to gain, like divination, and also for like transcendental, journeying work, and for ascension, or what we call ascension. And it's because the energy of these sites, it doesn't just take energy away, but it gives us energy because we are, again, like a powerhouse, like a battery, just as these sites around the world act as batteries by the natural magnetic stones, like focusing that energy into one place. So when you really begin to look into all of this, you really see that actually reality as we see it, or as we believe it to be for the last, maybe 1,000 years, is far from the reality that we would have experienced, 2 to 10,000 years ago. The reality is very, very different for a very long time.
Absolutely. I'm grateful you brought up the empathic abilities and how we really do. If you are somebody who's not familiar with what an empath is, it's somebody who can really connect with the energies of other people that are around them. And if you are somebody who's very susceptible to, soaking in other people's energies, it can look like you go from let's say you're driving your car, you're going down, to the store, right? And you're in a good mood, you're listening to the music, everything's good, you're maybe singing a song, having a good time. And then you get to the store and all of a sudden your mood is just totally changed. You are now stressed, you're feeling anxious, maybe you even feel a little bit angry. And this is because as energetic beings, we are all connected. And so whenever you go into a new space with other beings, and if the people in the store are already anxious or angry, then you might be soaking in some of their energies. And so that's why it's really important that we do truly learn to understand our realities as opposed to other people's realities, and being able to create those lines that keep us from always soaking in other people's energies. And as an empath, I want to empower you guys to know that you have the tools to be able to walk into that store where people may be having bad energy and you don't have to be affected by it. You can absolutely hold your sovereignty and know that you are not going to be totally derailed because somebody else with a negative attitude or might be experiencing something negative is going to come into your space. And so I know for myself, I practice a lot of shield techniques, and a lot of this is just mental awareness and bringing in the fact that I am my own being, I am whole, I am protected, and envisioning a very solid crystalline shield that wraps all the way around my body, over the top, over the bottom of my feet, and allowing myself to be in an energetic space that I've created that is filled with peace and love. And then that way, no matter where I go, I know in my own energy field. And part of that is being able to be aware of it. And so a lot of that starts with just mindfulness and paying attention to what is happening around you and what's happening within you, and trying to divide those lines between, okay, is what's happening right now directly related to how I feel, or am I feeling something that's not related to what's going on? And being able to discern the difference between the two for yourself, and then create those spaces for yourself to be able to just connect and show yourself love. I feel like it's really important whenever we are in the healing process of being able to see that a lot of the times the realities that we are experiencing are based off of our experiences and our learning, what we've been taught. So like you said, you brought up the stick. I don't have a stick. I have lots of crystals though. So we'll grab another rock, like I've been taught this is a rock, right? This is a clearish white rock. And so that is now my perception of my reality. Right. But if you've been raised in a society where this is not a rock, this is a Lemurian crystal that holds sacred power and can cleanse your auric field. Well, now this is something that is not just a white rock, right? And so understanding that whenever you are working with your reality, because here's the thing, guys, it's so easy to be overrun by our reality if we're not aware of it, and to say, oh, I am a victim of the circumstance, I am, I have to be in this situation because this is my reality. And yes, I'm not trying to say that you can escape from your reality, but you can be aware of it and connect with the parts of it that truly honor yourself. And so just really being aware of what's going on and being honest with yourself too. I think a lot of the times it's easy for us to allow those trauma that we've experienced in our life to kind of affect our reality. So, for example, if you're in a relationship with somebody where they are really abusive, right? And they are constantly, tearing you down or making you feel bad. And so you guys break up and you split and you go your own ways. Later on down the road, you might look back on this relationship and say, oh, that relationship was horrible. They were always mean all the time. Everything was, bad. They had this and this going on. That's your perception of the reality. If you take a moment and you sit down and you look at the reality that happened and you say, okay, sure, this is how they acted in this situation or this situation, but what was going on the rest of the time? What was happening whenever they weren't being mean or abusive? What was going on in my life? And so understanding that you don't have to be totally attached to that one part of the reality where, yes, you experienced trauma, you experienced something that was bad, but what about everything else that was happening in your life that was beautiful or positive or motivating? And so for me anyways, I know it's been really empowering to be able to step into a place of saying, yes, I've been through this. This has affected my reality, and it has affected how I interact with other people or how I show up. But being able to kind of like reclaim my reality by saying, but I also see the beautiful things that were happening. I also see the growth that I did. I see the kindness that my friends showed me. I can see the, fun times that I had when I was at my, job or with my friends. And so understanding that, especially when it comes to trauma and working through healing, that, it's easy to get focused on that one thing and lose track of everything else that happens. And you're going to be really empowered whenever you open yourself up to seeing the whole picture and welcoming in the entirety into your space. So that way you can have a more expanded perception of your reality and being able to use that for healing.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned, about trauma and seeing other things that are going on in your life, because something that I teach, and I call it the just happy practice, and igniting or empowering your inner happy factory, as I call it. And by this, I use a somewhat controversial saying, which is, if you truly want to be happy, you already are. And as we're talking about perception, it kind of fits well, because if you perceive yourself as unhappy or depressed, you will perceive more of that, because you're actively looking for the things that will make you more depressed, or you're looking for the negatives. And it's not about saying, well, you have to just pretend to be happy and ignore the depression or ignore any negative feelings. It's not to say that, but it is to say that when we focus on the negative, we will see, and it's not, going into the law of attraction, you can look at it in two ways. One is that you are actually attracting things. You are actually materializing things from elsewhere into your reality. But if you don't believe in the law of attraction and you don't believe in manifestation, I want to offer a slightly different look, that it's not that you're attracting things from outside. It's just that you are creating them inside your head. You're saying, okay, well, life is crap. So now your brain is going to start to look at all the things that you don't like in your life, which means it's not to say that necessarily you're attracting more negative things into your life, but you're noticing more negative things, or you're creating negatives from things that may be more positive than you've realized. So just how you see your reality, or how you tell yourself you see your reality, because you can see something that's beautiful and you can tell yourself that it's horrible and you hate it, and then you'll start to hate it because you're telling yourself consistently that you don't like it. So what you tell yourself and this is why your inner voice is so important, to get that friendship and to get that union with your inner voice and your inner critic, because what you tell yourself internally is the reality that you will create outside of yourself. And the most successful people on the planet would say the same thing. What you tell yourself is what you will have. If you tell yourself you are depressed, you will be depressed. If you tell yourself you can't do something, you won't be able to do it. And again, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both right. Your perception is everything, because your perception creates your reality. And I just want to reiterate, it's not to say that if you are suffering from depression, you should just tell yourself you're not depressed. That's not kind of the get out from that and the recovery. It's much more to do with the healing process through depression and healing through the triggers and the trauma and working through that. But one aspect of that is how you position your mind. If you have your mind in a position of, okay, well, I am depressed, I am suffering from depression, your brain is instantly saying, okay, well, we're not releasing chemicals. We haven't got enough dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin. Okay, so yeah, we are depressed because we're not creating it. Is understanding that your brain isn't in control of you. You are in control of your brain. So when you begin to say to your brain, we are creating these chemicals, after a while, your brain starts to see, oh, okay, well, when I give my mind something negative, it's turning it into a positive. And it's telling me that I should be happy about this. It's telling me that I should see this in a better way. So your brain then begins to program to start to release these chemicals and hormones that it was missing before. And this is the connect between more what we call new age energy healing or new age ways of looking at things compared to medicine. Because a doctor of the past would say, okay, you're depressed, here's some antidepressants, which we know through, and some people benefit really well from them, and others don't benefit so well, or they will feel more numb than be able to feel. Because this medication is built on not living energy, but dead energy. It's giving you just a tablet that alters your brain on a physical way. But your brain isn't influenced by the physicalities. The physicalities are influenced by the non-physical realities that we can't actually perceive consciously. So the way to cure any kind of mental illness is to look at the ways that the mind is working, because the mind and the brain are two separate things. So we can treat the brain as much as we like, but if we don't treat the mind along with the brain, we're just going to be creating, again, this is where the numbness comes from, because the mind is still in this state of, I am feeling loads of emotions and it's really heavy. But the brain is then saying, well, we're not feeling anything because we got some antidepressants that's stopping these feelings from happening. So then you get this gap between the mind trying to feel this stuff and the brain being stopped from actually allowing it to be physical emotion. So the way, again, to look at this is to treat both mind and body as separate and not as one and the same, because they are very different. The mind is made of this conscious energy that we can't see. We can't understand where the conscious energy comes from that creates the mind, but we can see the brain. We can understand the brain on a physical level. But we often fail, and many doctors fail to recognize it's the mind that is diseased. And that the brain, again, is diseased, but it's also the mind. You can't just treat the brain, you have to treat the energetic mind, because that's what is in charge of the physical body and the physical brain.
Absolutely. I'm truly grateful you mentioned that aspect, Aaron. I know for myself, I was on medication for many years to work with PTSD and trauma. And I found now in my medication, I was also going to counseling and therapy and working through all the different medical techniques. And I went through this process for about 5 years, and I just wasn't feeling better. I wasn't getting the outcome that I wanted. And it's like, if you look at it from the scientific point of view, I was taking the medicine that was supposed to help with the brain. I was taking the action that was supposed to help with the, mind, and being able to do the exercises and work through it. And what I found was that I had actually disassociated myself from the ability to feel, because I had experienced so much that I wasn't able to process. And then rather than working through connecting back with those emotions, I just got on medication that was supposed to solve the problem, right? And of course, instead of solving the problem, it created further dissonance. And so I know in my own journey, it's been really empowering to separate myself from those medications and connect back with my body. And that's one of the reasons I started working with Reiki, was because it was a natural energy healing that I can connect with, that connects through my energy to, the energy that runs through everything. And being able to connect back with that allowed me to learn how to feel again, how to be able to accept love into my life, or how to express my anger in a positive, healthy manner. And just really creating the opportunities to be able to be connected with my reality in a way that was very physical, and not just the, yeah, I'm going through the motions, I'm doing the things that I'm supposed to do, but actually being an active participant in the reality. And I know as well, working with positive affirmations. I know you said you mentioned just being able to like speak to your reality, right? And I know a lot of the times people will be like, oh, well, positive affirmations, if you wake up every day and you say, I am successful, like, well, you could look at it two ways and say, okay, if you're just going to wake up every day and say, I am successful, you're not actually bringing success into your life. But you are changing your mindset and saying, every day I'm going to wake up and I'm going to say I am successful. And whenever you first start doing it, it might be kind of like, I am successful, like not really very heartfelt. But the more you do it and the more heart that you put behind it, and you wake up one day and you're like, you know what? I am successful. Like I am successful. I'm going to be this person. I am already being this person. And allowing yourself to find that passion and motivate yourself from the heart, then you create the pathways in your brain of being like, hey, she's saying that we are successful. This is a pathway we don't necessarily connect with often. Normally we're telling ourselves we're the opposite, or we're not doing enough. And so whenever you create that pathway that now says, I am successful, now you have opened yourself up to the opportunity to start creating spaces for yourself to be successful, and creating the space for your brain to even think in a way of being successful. It works the same as like, I am confident. It's really easy to have low self-esteem, low confidence in the worlds that we grow up in. But to claim your confidence and to wake up and say, you know what? I am confident. I am confident. I am confident. And you just say it, and then you believe it, and you start to feel it. And I think that's really the trick, is allowing yourself to make the connection between what you're saying and how you feel, and then bringing that into the reality of saying, okay, well, if I am confident, I'm starting to feel confident. I think confidently. Now, what can I do to actually be confident? And so, yeah, I think that's really important whenever we're talking about the realities that we experience. If you're somebody that has really struggled and you're trying to change that perception, to just know that it starts with baby steps, and it starts with believing in yourself. And it's going to be hard at first. You're going to start off and you're going to say, I am confident, like question mark. But the more you do it and the more you believe in yourself, the more you create those pathways for your physical brain to be able to think about it in a way that you may not have before. You're giving yourself the opportunity to step into this level of reality that you wish to design for yourself. My motivation for this conversation was to be able to open up the possibility for anybody to not feel stuck in their realities. And this is just from my own experience, because I know how hard it is. The traumas we go through in life, the way that we're raised, what we're taught in school, what we're taught in our jobs, and where we go. We are walking around soaking up everything that we feed our bodies, what you watch on social media, what you read in books, what you listen, even the type of music that you listen to physically affects your reality, because everything is vibrations, everything is sound waves, like you said. And so, making minor adjustments, making small changes can end up having really big ripples later on down the road, and creating yourself the space to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to start with just this one little thing. I can do this one little thing. Maybe I can't just wake up one day and be this big successful person, but I can wake up and start feeling it. I can wake up and start saying that. And then I can take one little tiny step. What's one thing that you can do each day to fill that role of whatever it is? If you want to call more love into your life, if you want to feel more loved, start saying it, start feeling it, and create spaces for yourself to do this. We are truly limitless beings by nature. We are limitless. The only limits that we experience in this life are things that we place upon ourselves. And so if you find yourself in a situation where you're stuck or where you don't feel like you can, try to look at it from another situation and try to figure out a way to say, I am not stuck. I can create. I can do something else, and just allowing yourself to play. And that's why for me it's so important to play, because how can you know what you can do in life if you don't try? And sometimes you're going to fail, and that's okay. It's okay to fail, because that's where we learn our great lessons, is in the failures. And then you can take that and say, okay, you know what? I tried being a famous singer and it didn't work out very well for me. I blew it. It was not what I wanted. But then you learn yourself what you actually want in life and what actually connects with you. And you gave yourself the opportunity to get up and have fun. You know, I think it's really important to just to have fun for the general play of it. I'm going to bring it back to the sticks that you brought up in the very beginning. You know, it's like, yeah, the sticks, like, it's just a stick. All right, it's just a stick. Or it could be a magic wand, and Aaron and I can sit here and spells at each other using the wand. Which reality would you rather live in? I know I would much rather play with wands.
Well, that's the thing. Once, a few thousand years ago, and we can see this depicted in almost every religious illustration you'll see of Moses, of Jesus, and going back even further to Mayan traditions, and even further than that, the amount of people that are depicted holding either a short stick or a staff. And we see that wizards and sorcerers from only, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago in Europe were seen holding a staff. And the thing is, this was a way of harnessing energy. And because energy isn't, and again, you can harness energy into, especially a stick holds energy, it is all a battery. And the human body is a battery. And if you see the stick as not just a stick, but an extension of yourself, then you can channel that universal energy through you into the wand or the staff, which then creates the power. And now ancient civilizations, or even the origins of antiquity, of religions in antiquity even, they all use some form of magic. And you see Jesus turning water into wine, making bread go between hundreds of people. This is a form of magic on a very different level to what we see now. You got Harry Potter, and you got other films that depict magic as we see it now. But let's take it back to its origins and the things that we're told people could do, or beings could do. And there is so much evidence out there of ancient aliens who visited Earth and gave technology. And we have the stories of the Anunnaki from the oldest civilization that we know of, which is Sumeria or Mesopotamia. But this is also depicted in every single culture around the world. We see beings that are human-like, but they're not quite human. They're either depicted as fish-like beings, or some kind of reptilians, or like alligator kind of heads, or dog heads, or cats. And all across the world we have what they say the gods who came down from the heavens or came down from the skies. And the Sumerians tell us how they interbreeded with humans and played with genetics. So we have all this evidence from the ancient world that tells us that the gods, or what we would now call aliens, came to Earth, gave technology, built things, created people. And it's not too far-fetched when you begin looking at all the evidence and piecing it together, that actually magic wands and magic staffs were once a very powerful tool for many people. Because, we say magic is now a legend or a myth, but every myth is born from legend, and every legend is born from truth. So the fact that we even have this idea of magic today, and we have the stories of witches and wizards and sorcerers in the past, says that there has to be some level of truth in what we now perceive as a fairy tale or folklore, because it all came from some form of truth. And the fact that we have depictions as old as 5,000 or 10,000 years old, or even longer, Some people believe the pyramids date back to before the Great Flood, which is now believed to be at least 15,000 years ago. So 15,000 years ago, there were depictions of gods, godlike beings like Enki and is it Enlil, the Anunnaki leaders, depicted holding sticks as they're doing work. And again, it's just our reality. To them back then, the perception of reality was magic is real. It's used every day. It's used for basic things. Magic is everywhere. It's not even magic. It was just, as we would now take a laser, we get a laser pen and shine it. That's our version of magic. That was just an everyday occurrence in the ancient world. But our perception today is that magic isn't real. If you go into the street and ask a random person, do you believe in magic? That today they'll probably say, no, you're an idiot. Magic isn't real. But then there could be people in the world today that still use magic, because there are civilizations that we probably never come into contact with. Say in the Amazon, there are so many civilizations that have never had outside modern human contact. So what's to say that magic doesn't still exist somewhere in the world today?
Well, in my perception of reality, Aaron, magic definitely exists.
But with and you mentioned about feeling what you tell yourself, and affirmations. And again, the most successful and the richest people in the world will tell you they do affirmations every single day. They tell themselves, I am successful, I am powerful, I am grateful. That's a really big one, getting yourself into a place of gratitude for life and gratitude for yourself, and acceptance as well. But the reason we should feel it, because if you say something, you don't necessarily believe it. You're just saying empty words to get a point of view across. It's just an empty word as a means to an end. But when you embody what you say, you believe what you say. You can say something and not feel confident in it, and it really shows when you're not confident in what you say. People can hear, well, you sound like you doubt what you're saying. I can tell you don't believe it. It's not heartfelt. And then you can also say, I could really feel the power in your words. I could really feel how confident and passionate you were about what you were saying. It really touched my heart. So you see, words have power because other people can feel what we say. They can feel what we talk about on a physical level, which means if other people can feel what we are saying, how do we feel it? Because we're the ones saying it. So how do our own bodies? Because we don't recognize how our own words affect our bodies. But you will recognize how somebody else's words affected you. And it works in the same way. What you tell yourself and what you believe about yourself is what you become. So if you tell yourself you are successful, but not just tell yourself, you embody those words. You believe, you really feel that sense of success. And this can be, I made my bed this morning and I cleaned my room. Well, that's success. That's basic success. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be, I made £1 million last night. It doesn't matter. It's not about money. It's not about anything else. It's about what you've achieved, counting the very small levels of success. And if you're struggling to find anything you've succeeded at, again, take it to the basics. I made my bed this morning. And that's why many millionaires and entrepreneurs will say the first thing they do every morning as soon as they get out of bed is make the bed, because that sets your mind into achieving. Okay, I completed the first task of the day. The second I've got out of bed, I've made my bed. Therefore, I have already achieved something. So then when you go to the mirror, you get out of bed, make your bed, go to the mirror and say, I am successful. I have already achieved the first task of the day. I am going to achieve the next task of the day. And you can take this a step further. If you're really struggling to get into this, take it a step further. Don't just do it once a day. But say if you're working from home at the moment, every time you pass a mirror in your house, look yourself just for a second. You just say, I am successful. I am powerful. I am happy. And say it every single, it might feel a little bit vain to start with, of course, because you're looking yourself in the mirror and talking to yourself. Society will have us believe that's vanity, but it's reprogramming. Because if I was to sit here and say, you are successful, you are powerful, you are abundant, you are magical, well, you're going to look at me and go, why? How do you know that? That's wrong. You don't know that. Whereas if you look at yourself in the eyes and tell yourself those things, your brain is registering that very quickly, because it's you that's giving yourself the information. So your brain soaks it up, like a baby to the milk. It will just, I need it. Okay, give it to me. So it's really important to really allow yourself to get these really deep rooted in your brain, because the more you do it, the more you get yourself into this habit of affirmations and speaking about what you're wanting to attract and what you're bringing in, and in not just speaking about it but embodying it at the same time. Your brain starts to reprogram itself. And I just want to touch on what you said about the mind and changing the mind before the physical side of things. It's kind of like when I was giving up smoking for years, I would try and give up, and I would say, I'm giving up smoking. Or I would say to somebody, somebody would offer me a cigarette, and I'd say, oh no, I've given up. I'm giving up. And I would always go back. The most I managed was about 3 months, and I went back to smoking. But I gave up smoking last year, and for about a month, I didn't tell anyone that I'd stopped smoking. I just stopped smoking. I burnt my tobacco. I burnt everything, and I watched my addiction fly away. And now I don't say, oh, I've given up. I might do occasionally, but the thing I say most is I don't smoke. I don't smoke because I don't. It's not a case of I'm not saying that I haven't given up. I'm just saying right now I don't smoke. Because that tells my brain, well, that you're not acknowledging addiction. You're not acknowledging that you did smoke or that you might want to smoke. I'm saying I don't smoke, and it works the same. If I keep saying I'm addicted to smoking, my brain's going to go, yeah, you are. You're addicted to nicotine. You want it. Go on. You want some. Go on. And here's the thing with nicotine patches and things like the nicotine chews and things. It's treating the physical body. The physical body saying, I want nicotine. So you put a nicotine patch on. You eat like a Nicorette capsule thing that gives your brain some nicotine. Sure, you're giving yourself nicotine. May relieve a little bit of stress. But your mind wants to smoke. So if your mind isn't ready to give up smoking, you can give your body as much artificial nicotine as you like. But you're still going to crave the nicotine. You're still going to crave the cigarette because your mind isn't in that mindset of, I do not smoke. It's in the mindset of, I am trying to give up smoking. So when you then start to tell yourself, I do not smoke, your brain instantly goes, well, we don't suffer from addiction. We're not addicted to nicotine. We don't need it because we don't smoke. So treating the mind before the body, because you can try giving up smoking as many times as you want. Unless you get yourself in the right mindset, you will always go back to smoking because your mind isn't ready. Your mind, and this is with things like smoking and addiction, it's a constant occurrence. If I'm around somebody who smokes now and then I start saying, oh, no, I've given up. That I've noticed the change. I then start to crave the cigarette. But then when I say, no, I don't smoke, it shuts that pathway off. That my brain then says, we don't smoke, so we don't need to worry about it. But when I say I've given up, I don't want it, my brain opens up that pathway and says, well, we used to, and we used to really enjoy it. So maybe we're going to tempt you down this road. And then I have to fight really hard to stop my mind from giving in to temptation. So it really shows this in a physical way, how what you say to yourself and what you say out loud to other people affects how, what pathways your brain opens up to and how you program those pathways into your brain. And it takes 21 days to start to develop a habit, but it takes 90 days to develop it into a permanent lifestyle. So 21 days just to start to form. That's not to form anything. That's to start a habit. If you do something for 21 days consistently, like get up, first thing do, make your bed, then go to the mirror, do some affirmations and meditation or whatever, do that exact thing in the exact same way. And this is the importance of a morning routine. Because when you do it in the exact same way for 21 days, your brain begins to open up those neural pathways to create this habit. But after 90 days, so after 3 months of doing the exact same thing in the exact same way every single day without fail, your brain has cemented these neural pathways into a lifestyle. And that's why it's so hard to, you get really frustrated if you haven't done it, because it's your lifestyle. It's something that it's built into you. It's programmed into who you are to do these specific things in certain ways. And this is why people will come out of the military and be this has to be done this certain way, because they've been spending months and months and months or years being told, you have to do this, you have to do this, it has to be done at this exact moment, at this exact time, this exact way, because it's the neural pathways that they developed in the military are cemented into their mind. And that's why it's so hard for any ex-servicemen or women to come out of those what we call habits. But it's actually their lifestyle. It's actually then programmed into who they are, because the neural pathways were cemented through, the time when they had to do certain things in certain ways at certain times.
Absolutely. So reprogramming your mind is something that we absolutely have the power to do as humans. It takes the repetition and the consistency and embodying it, allowing yourself to step into new things and create new spaces for yourself to reprogram in a way that you desire for yourself. And I think it's so important that we talk about the importance of our words and what we say, and it sometimes can just be the manner of how you say it. Like, for example, if I say, I hope you have a good day, I have actually insinuated that somewhere in your day you might not have a good day because of the word hope. Whereas if I take that word out and I say, have a good day, now it leaves no room for this negativity to be in your space. And so just choosing the words that you use very wisely and being mindful of everything you say. Or if you say, I will try, you know what, Aaron, you've really motivated me. I'm going to try to wake up and make my bed and do affirmations. I'm going to try to do that. Well, now I've just doubted myself by saying the word try. Take that word out and just say, I will do the affirmations. I will make my bed. I will do these things. And then that way it's programming your mind to say, no, there is no try. It's the I will, the I am. And that's why those power words are so important to just utilize at whatever will you can. And I encourage anybody that might be struggling with any aspect of your life to know that there is absolute room for growth and to empower yourself just based on your own choices and the words that you decide to bring forward. And so bringing that mindfulness back into whatever it is that you're doing is going to open that space for you. So beautiful, beautiful. Affirmations and a morning routine is so powerful to be able to really, truly transform your life and bring you out of that stagnant energy. I know in life it's easy to get into a place of feeling stagnated, even in our routines where we say, okay, this is what I have to do each and every day. And you can even wake up and make your bed and do your affirmations and do your meditation. But if you're not feeling it, if you're not doing it because it's coming from a place of desire from within, it's not going to have the effect on you that you truly want it to have. So just knowing that it's really combining that heart with the mind that's going to help change the effect of the reality that you live in. And I'll bring it back to the importance of play and just having fun, so if you wake up one day and you go about your morning routine and you know what, the affirmations, you're not feeling it today. You made your bed, but you're still feeling like you're not successful. Have fun, do something that you enjoy, allow yourself to create change within your routine enough to inspire you. So for example, it would be if I wake up and I do my routine and I'm not feeling in it, I'm going to have a crazy dance session where I get out my finger dance and I do some crazy stuff with my fingers, or I dance with my hips and I just have fun and enjoy it, like dance like no one's watching. Be in a space of non-judgment with yourself, because at the end of the day, what good are you doing for yourself if you are creating this judgment around whatever actions you're doing? And so just understanding that play can create the opportunity to allow yourself to play with your reality and create new spaces for yourself to move into and to really be able to experience what you want out of life, and not feeling like you have to be stuck in any particular space, and knowing that you can claim that just by your own actions and your own thoughts, and the consistency too. It's like finding the balance between being consistent with your routine and allowing the malleability of play to find a cohesive balance between the two and create that space for yourself.
Yeah, there was a test that was created by NASA to test the creative genius of their rocket scientists. And the test was incredibly successful, so they used it for many years, but they decided to test it on children. So they got 1,600 children to do this test initially. And this staggering thing was 98% of 1,600 children tested as creative geniuses on this test. And they thought, okay, so 98% of children are creative geniuses. So why aren't 98% of adults creative geniuses? So they decided to test these children again, the same children 5 years later, and it dropped to something like 60-something%. So they thought, okay, there's a decline. Well, let's test them 5 years again. So they waited another 5 years and tested the same children, and it dropped. When they were about 15, it dropped to just 2%. So, I mean, when you very first start school, and you have like preschool, or in America, I think you call it kindergarten, where you play, you know, you're just a child and you're allowed to play. And then like in the UK, we go into like year 1 and year 2, I think, you know, first and second grade. And then suddenly you're not playing as much. You're spending the majority of your day working. And this takes the creativity away. And this test, since these results have been found, has actually been done with millions of children around the world. The results have been the same. The education system, with the structure it currently has today, actually suppresses and takes away our imagination as we get older. So as children, 98% of us are creative geniuses and could solve all of the world's problems. 98% of us are geniuses, and, you know, to match or even to contend with NASA's rocket scientists who are developing ways to colonize space and other planets in the galaxy. Now, what this says is that when we don't allow ourselves to be imaginative and to play, we lose that part of ourselves. We lose the imagination. And this is, to be honest, I didn't draw or paint for a very long time. And I painted something. I painted a house on a hill last year. I looked at it and it looked like 5-year-old me had painted it, because it was such a basic painting. And I saw such beauty in that, because I thought it suddenly dawned on me that I haven't drawn for ages, but my art had reverted back to my childhood ability of art. And I thought, so would reconnecting with my child self allow me to further develop my art by reconnecting with the current ability that I have? And again, it just shows the importance of allowing yourself to express and be creative. Because again, with art, I hadn't drawn for ages, so I drew like 5-year-old me would have drawn. But then if I allow myself to indulge in art, my art gets better. My imagination increases, my ability to draw things accurately. Like some of your paintings, Kristen, incredible. I thought they were actually just prints from the internet when I first saw them. And I had a little look, and it was like, oh, you painted them. Wow. And again, because if you allow your imagination to flow and you allow it to expand, that's really what happens. But when we say, oh, no, I'm not drawing today, I'm not going to paint, I'm not going to go out and play, I'm not going to allow myself to do these things that my inner child would love to do, we suppress it, and it just becomes less and less and less. Just as the school system, it goes from 98% of us creative geniuses to 60-something% of us, and then 2% of us within 10 years. Only 2% of us are creative geniuses, because we're not allowed to express our imaginative creativity in the world. And a lot of this is, if you look at a problem in the world, like something I've been looking at recently is the problem of sanitation in the third world. And for many years they said, oh, well, it can't be done, it's too expensive, because we're looking at the Western sanitation system. We go to the toilet, we flush it, it goes into a sanitation plant, gets sanitized, filtered and cleaned and sent back up. In the third world, to have that infrastructure, they would have to rip up the ground under millions of homes, which is unrealistic and would cost too much. So they say, well, it can't be done. And then I think in the 90s, there was more effort. So I think Bill Gates, he hired an inventor to come up with a new plan, a new idea for the toilet. And what they created was this toilet that would actually convert or treat the sewerage inside the toilet itself, as opposed to sending it off. It was all done in one system. And then they created like mini water treatment plants that could be rolled out all across the third world. So when you tell yourself it's already been done, it didn't work, that's it. You shut off that you start criticizing, which shuts off the imagination. But then if you say it's been done and that didn't work the way it was done, okay, so how can we do it differently? Rather than saying it can't be done because it's already been done, say, okay, let's find a new way to do it. And they actually, entrepreneurs around the world and inventors actually give these ideas to children to see what children come up with, because they start to recognize that actually children are creative geniuses and can solve all of the world's problems if we allow them to. But instead we say, okay, you've got to do this written exam that gives you questions that you've got to give an answer to. No. Give a child a real world problem and say, how can we solve this? Mm-hmm. And this really should be the tests and exams, SATs, GCSEs, A-levels, degrees of the future. Here's a real world problem that the world needs to solve. Okay, give me a realistic way that we can, and to pass the test, you're giving a way that's plausible. The way you pass that test would be to invent something that's plausible that could really be used. Rather than saying, okay, if Jim goes to the shop and buys 5 apples and then goes home and gets 2 more apples, how many apples does he have? That's good for getting basic maths, but it's not good unless you are adding in creativity with that to allow the mind to expand as opposed to contract. And it is really a case of not criticizing what you're doing. Like I said, if you say it's been done, it didn't work, you're criticizing it, which shuts the imagination down. Instead, open it up and say, how can we do it differently? Or this didn't work in the way that it's currently being done. Okay, so what can I change about the current system? And this allows the imagination to flow. And this is really the importance of play. For me, is if we don't allow ourselves to expand our imaginations, to indulge in fun activities that allow the mind to just relax or expand in the form of art and creative writing allows the mind to expand. And then we do the mundane things that make the mind go into autopilot and contract. So we need to do more of these things, allow our minds to expand so that we can actually tackle the things that plague humanity that we need to solve. And imagine living in a world where adults would go to the park and just play on swings or whatever. Imagine that kind of world, rather than just, businessmen who are like, no, I can't sit on a swing. That's not businessy. That's not proper. Actually, just be like, yeah, do you know what we're going to play? We're going to go to a park and we're just going to play. Imagine a world where people are that open and that down to earth and just relaxed. Surely we would all love to live in that kind of place as opposed to, more boring and mundane world.
Absolutely. I like to get on the swings when I go to the park. I will be the one you find running through the field playing with the flowers. Okay, now that we've established that.
Or just climbing trees. I mean, how many adults actually climb trees anymore?
Absolutely. Climbing trees is so much fun, and allowing yourself to play, like create adventures. Like, I'm going to climb up this tree and maybe I'll see all the way to the top of the world when I get up there. Finding the little animals that live in the different, cubby holes of the tree. And one of my favorite things to do when I go to the woods is to create little like adventures that could be happening along the sidelines. Like, oh, there's a little trail that goes off into the woods there. I bet there's a whole deer family that lives down there that, hikes up here every day to get their fresh air and their sunshine. But it comes from a place of allowing yourself to not judge and not judge yourself, like, let alone judging other people. That's a whole thing that we can work on at some point. But every single day you can make the choice to not judge yourself. And whenever you choose to not, you open yourself to the opportunity of allowing yourself to play. It's like the best example I can give is I sat down to paint with my brother. I love painting. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I used to be very judgmental of my paintings and say, oh, I can't paint this to look exactly what it needs to look like, or, maybe I'll choose the wrong brush or whatever. But, at some point I just said, you know what? it's about having fun, and it's about expression. It's about creating what's inside and bringing it out into the physical reality. You know what? There is famous artwork out there that is literally just red paint on a wall, making thousands of dollars, sitting in a museum that is considered amazing. And it's considered amazing because somebody else said, yeah, you know what? This makes me think about something. This makes me feel in a particular way. This invokes some sort of space within my own being that makes me relate to that. And once you can look at your art, whatever it may be, whether it be painting or being a business person, or even just being a good family member or a good friend, like, you open yourself the opportunity to allow other people to connect with you and connect with themselves. And I know I was sitting down to paint with my brother, and he was having a really hard time. He hadn't actually painted as far as I know, his whole life. Like, he couldn't remember the last time he'd sat down to paint. And I gave him the paints. I set him up with the brush and the canvas. And then I went to my painting, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my thing. He's going to do his thing, and it's all going to be great. And I look over to check on him and see how he's doing. And he's still just sitting there staring at the canvas with the brush in hand, not sure what to do. And I asked him, well, are you stuck? Do you need ideas? What can we do to help get the creative flow going? And his comment was that he didn't know where to start. He didn't know where to start painting. And so for me, my initial thought is, well, get paint on the page. And so I walked up to his paper, I walked up to his canvas, and I took the paint that I had, which I think it was red paint, and I squeezed it, and I squeezed a big blob of red paint in the middle of his canvas, and said, there you go, like, it started, go from there. And he looked at me with just like the most upset face I could even describe. It was just like I had ruined his whole painting, because he had all these ideas of what he wanted it to be, but he couldn't put it on the page because he didn't know where to start. And then I came along and I just made it all red. And so it was like, but in that moment, he realized that he was stopping himself because of the judgment he had on what he expected it to be, rather than just allowing himself to play. And from there, he ended up creating a really beautiful piece. It ended up being like some Atlantean cave with like rainbowy colors in the background, and it turned out really beautiful. And just coming from a place where whenever he started being so stuck, not even able to move, not even able to take the brush and put it on the canvas because of that fear of, well, what if it's not what I want it to be? What if this isn't, what if I can't display what I want to display? And I think we experience that in all kinds of ways, especially when it comes to our emotions and expressing ourselves, because we do grow up in a society that does not encourage that expression and that self, that need to be able to say, this is what I feel, this is what I desire, this is what I want to create. And how empowering it was for him to be able to lose control for one moment, to just lose control. Something else stepped in and said, all right, here you go. Here's some paint on the canvas for you. And I think that's how life works, really. Like when you're really stuck and you're like, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, I don't know what I'm going to do, life steps in, something comes in, then you're put in a place where, well, now I have to make a decision. Now I have to do something with this giant blob of red paint, because I know I don't want just a red canvas. And so, being able to say, losing the expectations of exactly what you want it to be and playing with it in a way that is expressing yourself, and then just allowing it to be. Whenever he started the painting, he didn't expect it to look like a Atlantean rainbow. He probably had some other really different designs in his mind, but it was beautiful. It was an incredible painting, and he was really happy with it. And so I think in life, sometimes we have a tendency to say, well, this is my expectation. I want this situation to turn out exactly like this. And if it's not exactly like this, I'm not going to be happy. And that stops us from even putting ourselves in situations that allow us to experience what we want to experience in life. And so opening up the space for you to step in and say, you know what? Maybe I don't want a red wall, but I'm willing to put a little bit of paint on the canvas and try something new. Gives you the opportunity to experience things that you may never experience in life if you're holding those judgments over yourself, or those expectations of exactly what things need to be, and just rather letting them be as they flow. And It's one of my absolute favorite, one of my favorite memories with my brother is that that beautiful creative piece that started off as just him being totally stuck and then finding his own power. And since then he's painted, maybe not a lot, but he enjoys it and it brings him happiness. And, you know, it's something that if he hadn't have stepped into the opportunity to try, then he would have never been able to experience that. And, you know, I think that it's really important that we all understand that we have divine expression. We all carry unique abilities within us that want to be expressed in our own unique individual ways. And it's hard to move forward sometimes because we hold that judgment of what's somebody else going to think, what is it going to be, is it going to even be what I want it to be? But sometimes the beauty truly does come from just allowing it to be and taking action. And if you take action and it moves in one direction and it's maybe not the exact colors you want or the shapes that you want, allow it to mold and move and flow into something new, and still use those other, you know, basic shapes that you started with to build from and to allow it to become what you want it to be. But just maintaining that level of fluid action and not being so rigid about everything in life, because this is what truly blocks us from being able to experience our realities and create what we want to, you know, what we want to live.
Yeah, and this is kind of the fundamentals of allowing yourself to flow, because any tension, you know, in the form of expression, whether it's dance, whether it's art, whether it's singing, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, any tension is coming from an expectation of what should happen when you move. You know, I'm feeling tense because my body is saying you have to move in this exact way, so it's causing this tension to make sure that you move in a certain way. So when you completely release any expectation, suddenly your body just flows, you know, in very strange ways that somebody might look at you and go, "Are you even human? Are you elastic? Like, what are your joints?" Because you're releasing the expectation of what your body should do or what it should look like or how it should be. And more importantly, the expectation of what other people are wanting to see or going to think about it. And again, it ties into our perceptions of reality, because how we believe other people are seeing us or judging us even really do affect us in every way. And my experience with that is, and growing up, my mum, before we ever went to school, she'd make sure, you know, we did our hair. Something was done with our hair. We couldn't go to school with like bed hair, or unless it was brushed, and you know, she'd put loads of hairspray in it. And looking at old school photos, I thought we looked horrendous, because she would spike the hair, she would brush it all flat and then just spike the tip, and it looked horrendous. So all through my childhood, I grew up with, you cannot go outside unless your hair has been brushed and styled, and you know, it has to be done, because people, you know, you can't be seen unless you look presentable. So I noticed that. And up until a few years ago, I had this, I couldn't go outside unless my hair was done. I had to do something with my hair. And even now, to be honest, I was anxious. I was like, oh no, my hair doesn't look right. So I had to go and sort my hair out before we came here today. So part of it's still stuck. And the reason that I'd noticed a few years ago and why I'd managed to calm that down is because I realized, do you know what? Most people don't really care what your hair looks like. But because this was drummed into me from a young age, I believe that people did. I believe that people actually care if you haven't done your hair, if your clothes don't look quite right, if you wear, I don't know, green and blue, people are going to care, because, you know, blue and green should never be seen. People care. No, they don't. I wore blue jeans and a green shirt a while ago. Nobody cared. You know, I didn't even care because it actually looked okay. It didn't look bad. It was just, you know, an old-fashioned saying that nobody even really remembers now. And it is a case of allowing yourself to let go of expectations of other people. Because when we say that, again, people care what my hair looks like, you are saying, I expect other people to expect this from me. And when we allow ourselves to let go of those external, it's not internal expectations, that's external expectations of what the world should expect from us. And even if we don't want them to expect that, we're saying the external world expects this of me, therefore I expect this of myself, therefore I need to control what I do. And this is where tension comes from. So when we allow ourselves to let go of those expectations, which is difficult, and it takes time, it takes practice, it takes patience.
Patience.
Yeah, but when we do allow ourselves to let go of those expectations, we allow that. What we allow, we experience life in more of a flow state, and we experience that flow state in all things because we're not holding that tension. We're not holding those expectations of what should and shouldn't happen, and we're just flowing with the moment and allowing whatever needs to happen to just be unadulterated, unchanged, untainted, unpoised, and just go with it. Just flow. Just let it happen. And this is a principle that comes from so many ancient religions and beliefs, and namely the Tao, is just flowing with the flow of life, the Tao of life. And when you finally reach the point of Tao, which is that the Buddhist equivalent of enlightenment, or the Tao equivalent of enlightenment, life begins to just become magic, and there's no effort in anything because you are just in the pure Tao state, or the pure flow of life, and nothing is uneasy, nothing is uncomfortable, because you're just letting it happen. Because there is only ever discomfort if we're expecting something. If you expect something to be a certain way, when it's not that way, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be tense. It's going to be hurtful. It's going to be depressing. It's going to be sad. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be strange. It's going to be weird, whatever name you give it. It's coming from the expectation of what should and should not be, and what is and is not okay to happen in your reality. Which isn't to say that you shouldn't have boundaries at all. You should always have boundaries. But again, it's allowing yourself to flow. If maybe somebody, there's two ways to look at it. There's one that's, yes, have boundaries if somebody crosses them, if you, or if a situation is pushing your boundaries. But you can also look at it in this way. If a situation is starting to push your boundaries, maybe it's the universe or life or the flow trying to mold you into something else. Just as water, if you chuck water somewhere, it's not going to conform to stay the shape of the cup. It's going to spread out. You've pushed the boundaries of that water by throwing it out of the cup. It now has no boundaries. It's like, well, where the hell do I stop? But it decides, rather than to stay in the form of the cup, it allows itself to just flow to where it needs to, even though it's uncomfortable. It doesn't know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't know if it's about to evaporate and disappear, but the water still allows itself to flow no matter what situation it's in. So even when somebody is pushing your boundaries slightly, maybe it's an opportunity for you to grow and to flow in a different way or a different sense, or maybe to build up more of a torrent behind you so that you can flow through the obstacle that's pushing your boundary. Because something's pushing your boundary, it means there's something there that's pressing on that boundary. So maybe that torrent needs to be a bit stronger to hold those boundaries stronger.
No, absolutely. I think too, Aaron, it's important to say that you're going to find 9 times out of 10 people are wrapped up in their own realities. They're not even paying attention to all these concerns that you have in your mind about what other people think or what other people are going to say. They're thinking the same things in their own minds as well. So whenever you're meeting another person and you're worried about what your hair looks like, they're probably worried about if their shirts got wrinkles on it or if their shoes untied or whatever. So it's like you may have this perception that everybody that's around you is going to be noticing all of the little things that you notice about yourself, when in reality they're probably paying attention to the stuff going on in their own space rather than yours. And I know for myself that has given me so much freedom in the ability to not hold judgment and express myself. I was out for a hike about a week or so ago, and I was really in a mood to sing, and I just wanted to sing, and I didn't care what anybody thought or said. And I went into the woods, and I'm singing Disney songs at the top of my lungs, just really enjoying myself. Normally there's nobody out hiking where I go. I live in a remote area, but this particular day, it was a very sunny and beautiful day in Missouri, and there were people hiking, and I had my eyes closed. I have my headphones in. I'm just singing, not paying any attention, walking along, and I noticed this group of people come walking up to me, and I'm at the top of a hill singing down a hill, so I know they heard me because your voice carries. And they come walking up, and I get so embarrassed. I immediately am like, oh my gosh, these people just heard me singing Disney at the top of my lungs. But are they going to be like, are they going to laugh? Are they going to judge me? Like, what's going to happen? They didn't even stop. They just walked right on by as if nothing had happened, if they didn't hear a single thing. And, it was really empowering for me to be able to say, it didn't affect their reality because they were busy probably having their own conversations. And even if they did stop and notice my singing in the woods, maybe it created a conversation for them to then move on into their day. And maybe I was able to share a little bit of that joy I was feeling in the moment with them as they moved on. But just being able to come to that situation of where in my mind I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, they were going to laugh at me, and it was going to be this big situation, and it wasn't even anything. It didn't end up being a situation at all. And I find that it's like with your hair. Had you not messed with your hair today, nobody may have even noticed that you didn't have, your hair put together. And so just knowing that it really does come back to that limit that you place upon yourself. And so if you're feeling stagnant or if you're feeling stuck, just try to look in your own reality and say, where have I placed limits on myself? Where have I said I can't do this? Or where have I said that it's not okay to do that? And really look at where is this coming from? If it's coming from a place of, well, in my past, somebody said it was not okay to sing Disney songs in the woods, like maybe I watched too many movies of people getting laughed at, frolicking through the woods or whatever, but really trying to find the root of the cause of why you feel that way, and then being able to shed light on that and say, okay, so this came from an unrealistic expectation that was placed upon me from a movie I watched 10 years ago. Now I know where this comes from, and I can release it, and I don't have to worry about it anymore because it's not a valid explanation to feel the way that I feel. And I feel that comes into play when it comes to a lot of different things in life. When you're experiencing being stuck or unmotivated, just allowing yourself to find that play and hold no judgment and give yourself the opportunity to express, because you never know, you might just change somebody else's day by singing through the woods. Singing Disney songs through the woods.
Yeah, and I just, as you were talking about that, I was thinking of like the modern world. If you walk through a city or a town singing, people would look at you and go, why are you singing? Why are you singing? Why are you singing? Stop singing. And I'd say society has this expectation that you can only you can only sing around loads of people if you're on a stage, if you're performing. You can't walk through town singing because that's not what sane people do. But why? Because our hearts want to express. And society has got so closed off from its expressions. We express ourselves with our faces. Okay, but what about our bodies? We can express happiness or sadness, anger and anxiety, whatever, for our face, but we can't express ourselves to the extent that our body needs us to, because society has, over the last, at least 100 years or so, that it's not right to express yourself around other people. And some people will take it a step further and say that if you're singing happy stuff in public, you're rubbing it in someone else's face that you're so happy. But then there's another way to look at it, that if somebody's feeling sad, and as you said, seeing somebody singing through the street and clearly being happy, dancing and singing in the street, how many people would that make happy? You might get those who get upset and a bit angry or a little bit frustrated or whatever that you're singing and dancing in the street, but the chances are that you're going to make more people happy than you're going to irritate them. Because it is important for us as human beings or just living beings to work to uplift and almost channel the energy of humanity. You know, when we're spreading happiness, we're channeling that for those who experience what we're performing. And tuning in with the portal of your heart and allowing your heart to just flow and to do what it needs to do. You know, if you feel that your heart wants to sing, it doesn't matter where you are, just sing. Allow yourself to just express what you're feeling in that moment, because you may then find, I mean, you could find, if you're walking through town singing, you might get a couple of other people join you and start skipping through town with you singing. You know, you never know what's around the corner, so you don't know who you're going to impact without even meaning to. And you might never know that you had an impact. But the fact is that, you know, that little old lady who maybe her husband passed away a year ago and she hasn't seen much happiness since. And then she sees you singing, I don't know, some Snow White song, skipping through town. Suddenly she's found a reason to smile again. And she goes home and says to her children, you know, her children come on to, you know, how are you, mum? Are you okay? Yeah, no, I saw this lovely person singing through town. It made me smile. I feel really good. Suddenly you've just changed an entire family's day. It's not just this little old lady, it's her children and then her grandchildren, because she's now found a reason to smile. Maybe that day was her grandson's birthday. And suddenly, rather than frowning and being a little bit miserable at her grandson's birthday party, she's smiling and she's laughing and giggling because she's finally found that reason to smile again, because of something that you expressed publicly for somebody else to experience as well as you.
Absolutely. I think that's why that's why I think it's so important that we express our hearts and be able to allow ourselves the space to just be whatever it is that we need to be, and not hold those judgments or expectations over ourselves, and say, you know what, I'm going to show up today with the best of my ability, with my whole heart, and I'm going to hold good intentions, and I'm going to be positive and move forward with your day, and allow it to be. Because absolutely, Aaron, the tiny little things that we do each and every day, they ripple out and they affect other people that we don't even know. And I think that's really powerful as a human, to be able to, by simply expressing what lives within our hearts, change other people's lives. Just by doing something that makes me happy, I'm going to change somebody's life. That's incredible. That's so powerful. And every human has the capability of doing this. I think a lot of it is just trying to figure out how to ungunk the heart, and get the dust away, and get the junk that's been corroded around it because of all the trauma we've been through, or all the things that people said, no, you can't sing in public, you know. And it's like, once you figure out all of the reasons why your heart is not expressing itself, and you kind of just show it that love, and you give it that space to heal and that space to be, and then you begin to express it, how many lives can you change, even if just for a day, even if just for one day. And to me, I know that's enough to know that, you know, if me showing up and singing a Disney song in the woods is going to bring a smile to your face, well, then I'll do it every single day, because it doesn't take anything from me to do that. And I think that's where, as a society, as humanity, I think that's where we're all going to really be able to grow and heal as a collective, is just being able to create spaces for us to share our heart song and sing what lives within our being, express ourselves however we choose to do so. If it's not hurting anybody else, if it's not causing others pain, then express it. Allow yourself to be, and play. And it comes back to that, you know, that failure aspect of, oh, well, I don't want to fail at this. Well, then just don't hold the expectation that it has to be something. Just because you're singing doesn't mean you have to be the world's next, you know, Britney Spears or whatever famous pop star you want. But, you know, just knowing that just being yourself in the moment, exactly as you are, is good. And it's beautiful, and it's truly unique and amazing, just because you are who you are. And yeah, creating more spaces like that, I think, is going to be really important moving forward, and healing with humanity, and allowing us to experience the realities that we want to experience. You know, I'm not naive. I know there's a lot going in the world right now. I know that there are plenty of things happening that is putting us all in a place of feeling negative or worrisome, but I can't control all of the things that are happening outside of my reality. I can't choose what is going on or what decision you're going to make or what decision my neighbor is going to make. But I can control my own, and I can be aware of what's happening in my own spaces. And I can make the choice every single day to wake up and find a way to be motivated, to find a way to be positive, to say, you know what, I'm not going to let all of these things that are happening in the world squander my joy. Like, I'm still going to wake up and find a reason, even if it is just singing to myself in my house. It lifts my spirit, it brightens my mood, and I feel better. And that can then move on and continue to make somebody else feel better. You know, if I smile at somebody at the store and that makes their whole day, that's amazing. Let's keep doing that. You know, we don't have to ignore all the things that are happening in the world. It's actually pretty important to pay attention to them and be aware of what's happening. That's how we begin to change our realities and live in the realities that we desire for ourselves. You are not a victim of this world. You are a creator of it. And you have the power to do whatever it is that you want to do. Just take baby steps at a time if you need to. But, you know, start off with waking up and saying you can do it and allowing yourself the opportunity to do whatever it is, you know?
Exactly, and this is how I know you wanted to touch on this, Kristen, is how our individual or personal realities intertwine with the perceptions of other people's realities. And it is true, you know, when you express yourself and you kind of embody your truth and you choose to live in a way that feels right for you, you will also then influence somebody else's life and how they choose to live and how they decide they want to live, which quite literally influences their reality, because they begin to see, oh, I don't have to live like this because you're living your truth, you're going out and living your dream. Well, that means I can too. That means I can go out and I can win the world. You know, I can do all these things that you're doing. And I know that because I'm seeing it happen. I know it can happen. Therefore, I know that I can make it happen within me as well.
Absolutely. And that's the magic of it, isn't it? That's the true magic of it. And the thing is, you know, you don't have to hold the expectation of yourself of, oh, okay, I'm going to sing today so I can change somebody else's world. It can just be and express yourself. And that by itself, just by simply being in your true authentic nature, by expressing whatever it is that your heart wants to express, that's how you're going to be able to make those changes. It doesn't have to be this big pressure of you know, oh, what am I supposed to do to make the world a better place? Just be better. Wake up and make the choice to be happy and to do things that you love and to go out and pick up the trash that's in the streets, or, you know, whatever you're passionate about. If you want to see more spaces in the world for people to be happy, create them. And it has to start with you and with every action you take, and just knowing that it's okay to be just exactly where you are right now, but you have the ability to be exactly where you want to be as well. And so, you know, just really understanding that. And I think too, it comes back to the neurons that we have in our brain, where we spend the majority of our time in our minds thinking about what we can control, planning it out, being in our minds about what's going on and how we're perceiving and all of this stuff. And we build up those pathways in our minds physically with chemicals. Whereas if we spend more time connecting with our sensory abilities, connecting with our expression, connecting with whatever it is that is not so focused on that control aspect, but the flow aspect, you're going to build those neural pathways and make those stronger. And it gets easier as time goes on, as opposed to being, at first, it's hard. It is, because you're doing something new. But the more you do it, the more you repeat yourself, and the more you bring that into your space, the easier it is, the stronger those connections get. And yeah, the joy that can come from it is absolutely, truly amazing.
Yeah. And the I think the majority of people know the saying, how do you change the world? With one act of random kindness at a time. And with this, we're we're not just talking about an act of random kindness for a stranger or for somebody that we even know. It's an act of random kindness within ourselves, being kind to you, allowing yourself to play, allowing yourself to do the things you want to do, allowing yourself to rest and to recover when you're feeling stressed. But if you have a day you wake up and you think, I don't want to do anything today, I need to rest. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge that your body is saying, I need more sleep. I need to rest. I need a day where I don't do anything because I've been doing too much. So allowing your body to just recover. And that doesn't mean that you're not succeeding for a day. It doesn't mean your success stops. It actually means that you're allowing yourself the time to stop, to recover, so you can do more success. Because if you're just focused on success every day, non-stop, you're going to wear yourself out. And fair enough, you could be one of those people that can go 7 days a week and never have a day off work. And to be honest, if you're one of those people, please share your secrets, because it's one of those things that it seems only a few of us, are able to do. And I know that there's some very successful people that do work 7 days a week for unthinkable hours, and they do manage. And it's not to say that it's not doable, but at the same time, when your body says, okay, we need a rest, we need a little bit of sleep, acknowledge that. Don't feel that you have to push through every moment of tiredness and every bit of weakness. Because at the end of the day, if you push yourself too far, your body and your mind could just shut down. And this is where, mental breakdowns happen, or physical ailments can happen because your body is stressed or is in a state of dis-ease. And the same with your mind. If it's in a state of dis-ease for too long, you'll have manifestations of that dis-ease. And again, how this works is energy. So if your mind is stressed, stress isn't really, you've got things like cortisone and things, chemicals that create stress. But stress in itself, again, is an energy. So when you hold this energy in your consciousness for so long, the energy then begins to transfer to your physical body. And then just as we're made up of energy that's converged onto one place to say, well, this is you, that energy of stress does the same thing. It collects and builds up. And this is how tumors form, because that stress energy is manifesting is basically clumping up. And when energy clumps up, the same as, how this phone or this stick is physical matter, is energy clumping up and saying, well, this is where we're going to stay now. And stress will build up and build up and build up in energy, in discomfort and dis-ease in the body. And then it creates a tumor, which then becomes disease, which then becomes a physical thing that you need intervention to get rid of or to treat. So by combating this, by saying, okay, I'm feeling very stressed, I've been stressed for a week straight, let's have a day where we rest, where we play, where we do things that make us feel good and ease the stress, because you then minimize the risk of turning any dis-ease into disease. Because dis-ease and disease are two different, they may sound very similar, but they're two completely different things. One is just you're not comfortable, you're not feeling okay, you might feel a little bit in the clouds, you might not feel grounded, you might feel a bit uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you're diseased. It just means that you're not in a place where you're comfortable, where your body is in alignment with how it should be, where things are in balance, when you're at ease. When you're dis-eased, that's when balance starts to tip and you start to be a bit uncomfortable, not quite on your A game, you can't quite think straight, you get stressed, you get angry, you get frustrated at everything. And if you stay in that frame of mind or that state of being for too long, you will create physical manifestations of the things that you're feeling. So it is so important to allow yourself to have a break when you need it. And society seems to have this toxic belief that if you don't do so, if you spend an entire day not doing anything, you're not succeeding. When actually that's completely wrong, because it is just as important to take rest as it is to work hard. It is really important to work. You always need to work hard. When you put your mind to something, work hard at it. Go at it with everything you have and put all of your passion into it so you get the best results. Because there's no point, if say you're an architect and you're designing a building, well, there's no good designing that building half-heartedly, because that building's going to be there probably for a good few hundred years before, at least. So put everything into that design, because that design is going to impact something somewhere along the line, or some people somebody might go to the top of that building and have their, maybe they propose to their husband or wife at the top of the building that you designed. So make sure that that building is as beautiful as you can make it. So when you put your all and your passion, your heart and soul, your blood, sweat and tears into every project that you put your mind to, beautiful things, miracles will happen. But at the same time, rest is just as important as how much effort, blood, sweat and tears and heart and soul and energy you put into everything. They both go hand in hand, because at the end of the day, you can't work hard unless you rest hard. And you can't rest hard unless you work hard, because otherwise you're not resting, you're just being. So it's important to have that balance of hard work and good rest.
Absolutely. And I personally think that if you take a day of rest, you are succeeding at taking care of yourself. So you are still succeeding. It's a matter of changing your perception of the idea of success. What does success look like? And seeing that success looks like being able to acknowledge when you need to rest, or, I know it can be, we can come back to this idea of like toxic positivity and saying, oh, okay, well, if I'm manifesting my reality, then I want to be positive all the time, right? Because I don't want to manifest anything into my space that's not positive or good. But by doing that, by maintaining that mentality, you're actually keeping yourself from expressing the things that need to be expressed. If you feel angry and you tell yourself, I don't feel angry. I don't feel angry. No, I don't actually feel that way. But you do actually really feel that way on the inside. You're creating this space of like, okay, well, now this little thing that I've invalidated in my being is going to grow. And it's going to become heavier, and it's going to grow and become heavier the longer I ignore it, the longer I don't express it, because it is energy. Everything is energy, right? And it stores within our bodies. And so giving yourself the opportunity to express is actually allowing those energies to expel from your body. So I know for myself, it's very important to maintain that level with my own being of saying, okay, how am I today? What's going on within my space? Yes, I want to manifest positivity and love into my life, but what else is happening in my reality that might be creating that dis-ease, and acknowledging it and giving it space to be. And here's the key. You give it the space, right? You say, okay, I'm not feeling great today. You know what? I'm really angry with this particular situation or this thing. Okay, I'm angry. We'll focus on anger. How do I express my anger rather than holding it in my body? For me, I do physical. I move. I work out. I'll go for a run. I'll, maybe I'll scream into a pillow. I don't know. It kind of depends on what the emotions are, but giving yourself the opportunity to bring that energy that is in your body and sending it out of your body, and then it no longer has to have that hold or effect on you, and then you can move on to manifesting your positivity and love into your life. Because then you don't have this thing that you've ignored. Whereas if you sit there and you try to tell yourself, I don't feel angry, I don't have anger, I am peace, serenity 24/7, you're denying a part of yourself. You're keeping yourself from accepting what is going on in your space, which is going to create that dis-ease that you're talking about, which is going to just ripple out into all the other places of your life. You're not going to be able to be as truly happy because you still have this underlying level of whatever emotions or spaces in your own mind that you're not paying attention to or giving a space to be. And creating that space for these emotions to exist, be whatever they need to be, and be released is the freedom of it all. Because otherwise, if you hold on to it, well, then it's going to sit there and fester and grow and turn into something that's going to eventually come out into your life in a way that maybe isn't as manageable. Maybe then you accidentally yell at somebody that you didn't mean to, or you create a situation for yourself that's going to affect your reality in a way that is just not how you even need to experience it. And so just being able to stop and check in with yourself every day and say, what do I feel? What's going on in my space? And try to look at it from an outside perspective, not so much from your own being of, well, I'm feeling sad today because I'm stuck in my head because of that one conversation I had a week ago, and it's still affecting me now. Because otherwise you're still being within your body. You're still holding that stuff inside of you. Whereas if you take yourself out and you look at it from a third party viewer's perspective and you say, okay, Kristen's looking upset today because she had something happen a few weeks ago. I acknowledge what happened. I gave you the space to feel how you feel. And then in that moment with that particular situation, I'm actually going to sit and have a conversation with myself and say, okay, well, can we change the situation? Is there anything we can do to go back in time and change it? No, I can't. I can't go back and take back my words. But what can I do in this now moment? What can I physically do in this now moment to bring this level of discomfort within my being into a place of comfort? And if it means reaching out to that person and having a new conversation, or saying, hey, I'm sorry I said that thing, or maybe it's just letting it be and accepting the fact that sometimes we say things we don't mean in life, and moving on from it. But regardless of how you interact with it, it's the acknowledgement of what's going on in your life that's going to really bring you into that place of healing and allowing yourself to move forward. So
Absolutely. And what I noticed as you went through that kind of process was you started with the willingness of acceptance. Now, the willingness, the vibrational scale of consciousness, and this is measurable with, measuring the frequencies of thought as we, think of different things, such as like shame resonates at like 20 hertz and fear at 100 hertz. But willingness is 310 hertz. So what you were in the process of doing there was you started off with the willingness to acknowledge something, and then you acknowledge and accept. And acceptance resonates at 350 hertz. But then you moved up to reason. You're saying, okay, well, this is how you're feeling. Can we do anything about that? So you start to reason with it, which then raises your physical vibration to 400 hertz. And then you send yourself love in that situation, which you then go to 500 hertz. So you start to raise the physical vibration of your body. And your body is just, and there is loads of science behind, the vibration when we talk about physical vibrations. It is a very physical thing, because we are just atoms vibrating close enough together to give us the illusion of physical bodies and material. So when we move through this, rather than contracting our feelings, and when we, if we're ashamed of how we feel, that's kind of at the lowest point, 20 hertz, very low vibration, and we feel very closed off. We don't have much energy. Well, because we're not vibrating fast enough. We're vibrating very slowly at just 20 hertz. So of course we're not going to have much physical energy, because we're just like, I'm ashamed of myself. And you'll notice when you feel shame, you hang your head, you start to go low, you start to go down physically. As your vibration drops, so does the rest of your body. I'm ashamed. And the same with guilt as well. And guilt resonates at just 30 hertz, and apathy at 50, and grief at 75. And when you begin to accept what you're feeling and reason with that, and send yourself love in that moment for how you're feeling, and to see if you can work a way to change how you're feeling, you're raising your physical vibration, and you're accepting things. Because if you don't accept it, your vibration is going down. Then you start to feel, you start to feel angry, or you start to desire feeling better. And desire is, I think it's 125 hertz is desire. So when you're thinking, I want to feel better, you're at that lower vibration where you're like, I want to, but I'm not allowing myself to. So then when you start to let go of that pride, and you start to show the courage, and courage is you're moving up again and again and again, courage, and you be courageous, and you're like, okay, I don't want to acknowledge these feelings, it makes me feel a bit uneasy, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to acknowledge them, and then I'm going to accept that I'm feeling crap today. Okay, I feel angry. Okay, so why do we feel angry? What can we do about this? Can we change the situation? Can we go somewhere else? Can we change? Can they change? What can we do? And no matter what, the answer is just say, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's just be here, be in the moment. Let's just love this moment, because it's just taught me something. It's just taught me that I can't change the situation, or it's taught me that I can change the situation. Either way, send yourself love, and really just sit there and feel, place your hand on your heart and just say to yourself, I send myself love, because right now I need it, and I'm doing okay. No matter what decision I make, I'm doing what's best for me in this moment. And just allowing yourself to feel that love from within. And really, when we show ourselves unconditional love, we begin to see love in all things. It's the same as when you begin to see yourself as, if I see myself as the same as this stick, I will show this love. If I hate myself, I'm going to hate the stick. I'm going to snap it. If I show myself love at the same time as seeing everything else as myself, I'm showing everything else the same amount of love as myself. Because our ability to love others or anything outside of ourselves is the same as our ability to love ourselves. If we don't love ourselves, we can't. And you can say that you love something, but unless you truly love yourself, you are loving everything else in the exact same way. And I just want to touch for a moment on the differences in love, because love is one of those words that we throw around. It's like, oh, I love this, I love that, I love this stick, I love my phone, I love this stick, I love the way it feels, I love the way. Okay, there's a word that we use so much to just express things we like. I really like this stick. I might love it, yeah, okay. And in this sense, for me to truly love this stick, okay, let's not use that analogy. True love. Now, true love, if you truly love someone, if you love a person, or say a dog, it means that you want the best for them, no matter what. You are irrelevant in that situation. To say I love you means I see you, I accept you, and I want nothing but the best for you. And it doesn't matter about me. I don't matter. This is about you. I am telling you that I want nothing but good for you. And how I always like to envision this kind of analogy is if a partner left you a note saying that they'd gone off somewhere else, but they were really, really happy. And you didn't need to worry, they were okay, they were safe. And this is somebody that you said to them, I love you. You said that a lot to them, but they're not there. Well, if you truly, truly love this person, of course, you might be feeling pain, you might be feeling anger or resentment, that's perfectly okay. But the reality is, if you are angry at that person because they're not with you, if you're upset because they're happy with somebody else that's not you, that love that you believe you feel for them isn't quite pure. Because pure love, if you see your partner with somebody else, but they're truly happy beyond the hurt and beyond the pain that you're feeling inside of yourself, you will still find happiness for them, because you're seeing, well, you're happy, you're safe, you're okay. Well, I'm happy for you. That doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't be hurt, you shouldn't feel pain, you shouldn't be upset or whatever, because it's natural. But the difference is, on the one hand, you're angry at them because it's not you. Okay, that's called selfish love. It's, I love you because you give me something that I don't get from someone else. And this is why you can love 1,000 different people, but you can only be in love with one person. Because true love, when you're truly in love with somebody, you're wanting the best, not just for you, but for them as well. And that's true love. But selfish love says, I love what you give me. I love how you make me feel. But then when they're taken away, you say, okay, well, you're not giving me anything now. Okay. So love is one of those words that I notice being thrown around here, there, and everywhere. And it's often very intriguing when you kind of present a person with that question of, what if this happened? How would you feel? Because too often the question kind of results in more selfish love as opposed to really intimate, deep, pure love, because it is one of those feelings that, and I think as a society we've confused love with many of with lust and desire and cravings and things, and this all comes from the last few hundred years, and pleasure, pleasuring ourselves in many different things. Like this stick brings me pleasure. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm in love with the stick. It just means it brings me some level of pleasure. So it's important to differentiate the differences between love and pleasure and things like that. And really understanding that concept when it comes to loving the self. Because when you really understand that to love yourself means that you want the best for you no matter what, which is something that we always want anyway. But when we incorporate that, knowing that I'm always trying to do what's best for me, and realizing actually every single time I'm doing those things that I think are best for me, I'm showing myself a level of pure love that maybe I haven't noticed before. And then we begin to realize, actually, do you know what? I truly already do love myself. I've just forgotten because I misunderstood what the word love really meant. Because we all naturally, we love ourselves. We love ourselves enough to say, right, okay, who's going to die? It's either you or you. Our natural instinct is to say, I want to live, you know? And it's very difficult to then say, actually, no, shoot me because I want this person to live. Again, that's an act of love for somebody else because you're saying, I don't care what happens to me. I want you to be okay. That's pure love. You're sacrificing yourself for somebody else. But then when we sacrifice somebody else to save ourselves, that's an act of pure love for ourselves. And that may be seen as selfish. And of course, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, it would be a bit selfish, but it's still an act of pure love. And when we understand that instinctively and at our core, at our basic level, we love ourselves unconditionally anyway. When we begin to realize that and embody more of that and say, well, I already love myself, so why not build on that? I've already loved myself enough to survive, to go out every day and make sure I come back alive and go to sleep and wake up alive again. Then why don't I just build on that? Why don't I just show myself more of that love that I've already had since the day I was born? We begin to see transformations in the way that we act and the way that we believe in ourselves and the way we talk about ourselves and talk to ourselves. Because really, when we show ourselves unconditional love, that's when miracles truly happen within the self.
Absolutely. It always comes back to that unconditional love, right? Where it's, you have to really look at yourself and say, what conditions have I placed upon this love? And if you can find one, then it is not unconditional love. And it's a hard reality to accept whenever you're really trying to work towards that level of love, of really acceptance and holding no conditions. But I can tell you from my own experience, whenever you find a place of truly loving without conditions yourself or other people or whatever it is that you're doing, that's where you find the true joy that comes from the love, you know, and it doesn't matter then at the end of the day if that person is doing that particular thing or if they're being there for you in the way that you want them to, or even if they are providing for you what they said they would. It doesn't, none of that matters, because at the end of the day, if you are holding no expectations over that love, that's where the pure joy comes from, because you are truly happy for them in their own experience and what's happening for them. And you can also see that whenever you don't hold the judgment over them in their experience, because everybody's experience is valid. Everything that you experience on a daily basis is completely valid. And if you're going to show up for somebody else in a place of conditions of saying, I'm going to give you my love if you do this, or, you know, here's my love, it's free, but then as soon as you act this particular way or you say this particular thing, I'm taking my love back. You know, that's placing dissonance and discord within your own space, because now you have to keep up with those conditions. Now you have to pay attention to them and say, okay, well, I'm going to say I'm only going to love this person whenever they act this way. Well, then I have to be paying attention to that. And that's creating so much stress and anxiety within your own space that you just don't need. And if you allow yourself to drop into that place of, I'm not going to hold conditions over this, expectations over this. I'm going to allow this situation to just be whatever it needs to be, and I'm going to show up and I'm going to flow with it. You find pure joy that nobody can take from you. Then it is not, I don't feel good because of this love that's happening in my life. I feel good because of the love that I've accepted within my being, rather than needing it from somebody else or needing it from an outside source. I can just go back to my own body and say, you know, I am myself. I am love within myself, and I don't need to place these expectations upon other people or other situations in order to feel okay, because in this now moment, I am embodying unconditional love, and it's all going to be okay no matter what happens. At the end of the day, if we are all safe, we have food, if we have roof over our head, even if we just have our being wherever we are in this moment, and you can find that happiness within you, no matter what is happening in your external experience, it's a level of peace that just is, it's almost undescribable. It really is, because it's like when nothing can take your joy away, then you truly feel in your own power and you're able to show up yourself in ways that you never expected to be able to show up for yourself before. And yeah, just being able to experience your reality from that place of unconditional love. And it's hard. It's a journey. It really is. Able to say, you know, how do I even unlearn the expectations that we've put? Because we're not raised in a society where we are taught what unconditional love even looks like. And so being sure that we are setting ourselves up for opportunities to learn and being gentle with yourself while you're in the process. It's okay if you come to a situation where you think you were giving somebody unconditional love. Like, let's say you have a really good friend that you say, oh my gosh, I love you no matter what, everything, I'm always going to be here for you. And then you find out that your friend is, you know, experiencing being addicted to drugs and has, you know, hurt somebody or something. And now they're out on the street looking for a place to be. And they come to you and you say, oh, I can't love you anymore because of these conditions that I've put upon my love for you. You're creating a space for yourself that is only going to make life so much more difficult because it's not in congruence with that unconditional love. And you know, then you've also made this friend feel unworthy or unable, and then you've furthered their own path as well. And so yeah, I just encourage you that if you are struggling to connect with that level of unconditioned, always ask yourself whenever you're in a place of expressing that love for others, what conditions have I placed upon this, and are they reasonable? Is there a way that I can work through this situation without those conditions? And I'm really grateful you brought up unconditional love in a relationship, because I think that it's so important if we're going to say that we're going to be there for somebody, you know, that it doesn't matter if I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to love you unconditionally for the rest of your life. That's saying I'm going to love you unconditionally, right? So if you come to me in 3 years and you say, you know what, I'm not happy. I wake up every day and I'm stagnant in what I'm doing, and I just don't find joy and whatever's going on. And maybe I think you and I taking some time apart would bring me joy. Well, I'm not saying you have to just flow with it, but honor their opinions, honor their respect. If that's what they feel they need, hold space for that person, because you might find at the end of the day that maybe the relationship doesn't need to be thrown away. Maybe they just needed space to be heard and to be seen and to be felt. But if they know that they come to you with this feeling and you're going to hold conditions over them, they're less likely to come to you with their authentic truth. And then you might end up in a situation where you split apart and then you go your own ways, and you know, you're not living your most authentic life because you wanted to live it with that person. And so, you know, I think at the end of the day, it's really in your best interest. Like you said, that act of self-love, it may seem selfish in a sense of like, you know, oh, well, I'm doing this so I can feel better, but it's not, because you're really holding that space for the people around you as well to understand what unconditional love is, and to know that they can then turn around and be in their authentic truth, and that it's going to be okay, and that there can be, you know, a solution or a workaround or a way to, you know, find that expression in a way that is healthy and motivating for each and every person involved in the situation. So.
Absolutely. And again, you know, if you're in a relationship and your partner comes to you and says that they feel they need space apart, and even if that means that the relationship has come to an end, again, with real love, and this is a point I kind of make often in the sense of relationships, is all too often people will come out of a relationship and resent each other, and they'll fight and they'll argue, and sometimes it's not a case that the two people don't love each other. It's more a case they allow their personal feelings to overshadow the love that they actually feel for that person. So when we act out of almost impulse, you know, we say, okay, well, I love you, but I'm feeling really hurt, so I want to let you know that you've hurt me. Again, that is overshadowing the love, because to really love somebody, even if they hurt you, you're not going to really rub it in their face and say, you've really hurt me. I need to make sure it's drummed so far into your head that you've hurt me, because that causes the other person pain. And when you really love somebody, you don't want to cause them pain. So again, it kind of accepting, okay, well, this is what you need. Well, I love you enough to let you go, in a sense of a relationship. It doesn't mean that you then have to become enemies and never talk, because it could be that actually you work really well together, just a relationship isn't right for you. And maybe it was right for you, but then as time went on, the relationship, after many years in the relationship, maybe you became friends in the relationship, and they said, well, I want more than just friends. It doesn't mean that they say, I don't want you in my life. It's just that they're saying, I need more than what we have, but I love what we have. I just need more in a relationship. So then you can say, okay, well, I understand this isn't right, but that doesn't mean we have to throw away what we do have. It just means that we're accepting what we had has ended, but now we can build something new. We can build a bit better friendship. Now we're saying, okay, well, we're not in a relationship. Well, let's focus on a friendship. Let's build on the things that we do still have that work. Maybe you're not very loving towards each other. You're not very passionate or intimate anymore. But every weekend you go to a studio and you paint, or maybe you go to yoga classes together, or you go on hikes together. Okay, still do those things. It doesn't mean that you have to leave each other's lives. It's just adjusting to a new way of being in their life. But all too often, and it's understandable, it's human, we allow our emotions and our feelings, because if one person's not in love anymore but one person still is, it's very difficult. But again, this is where pure love gives that difference, because you're then able, when we recognize what is pure love and what's not, and the meaning of the two, we're then able to say, okay, well, yeah, this really hurts, but in time, I will adjust to this. Just as one day you look at somebody and say, well, I see you as a friend. 2 years later, you could see them as an intimate lover that you want to marry. You adjust to things. Feelings change. You might then meet somebody and you say, okay, well, this doesn't feel too, I'm more okay with just being friends with you now, because I've met this person who, wow, makes me feel incredible. Your feelings and your emotions just change. So it's really important to just recognize what's coming up, and to adjust, as opposed to just throw things away because it's not the same as what it was, which is too easy to do, way too easy to do. But then the best things in life are very rarely easy.
No, absolutely. I'd like to bring up the fact too that whenever we are in these situations where we're experiencing discord in relationships, something can happen and you are experiencing a situation where maybe the relationship was bad, okay, and you guys did need to split and not be together anymore, okay, and then you go on your own ways and you say that the way that I remember the relationship was that it was all negative and that it was all bad and that everything that happened was just this horrible experience of life, right? And in their own realities, they're probably experiencing something very much the same of what this person was bad, the relationship ended bad, nothing's good there, right? So in your own spaces, you're experiencing all of the negativity that happened. But if you stop for a moment and you look at the relationship and you say, okay, well, I can see all these bad things that happened, but I can stop for a moment. Sorry. uncalled for laughter.
Just trying to keep it together.
Sorry. Sorry. In that moment, I needed to laugh. But being able to look at it and say, sure, I see the bad things that are happening, but being able to look and say, okay, well, maybe not everything was bad. Maybe some of the things that happened were positive, and being able to see that in your experience of looking at it from all the negativity that happened, you created something that was completely negative and had nothing positive in it, right? And then you've got this void of your life where all these negative things are going on. But if you are able to then focus back on, sure, this relationship was bad, we didn't vibe, everything was, there were negative things that happened, but there was a positive a positive that happened here or there, like, oh, this person was kind to me, or they helped me whenever I was feeling down, or maybe they helped clean the house, and you're able to kind of look back at the positive things that did happen. You can actually bring that positivity into your reality and saying that you're not necessarily that the whole situation wasn't bad, but that there's positive things that happen too. And so
So I'm just for everyone on Spotify, we're live on YouTube with some comments. Kristen, I'm intrigued. What is the story of the turtles?
What's a story about turtles?
The comments are from asking you about the turtles. Photos of the turtles.
What are we talking? Turtle propaganda. Oh my goodness, not turtles. Well, personally, I think turtles are really great. They teach us how to be slow and enjoy our environment, and they also teach us how to take care of ourselves. But other than that, I have no idea what what exactly we're talking about with the turtles. Murdered turtles, kind of.
Maybe it's just showing the turtles unconditional love.
Turtles need unconditional love. They are so under-recognized for the amount of work that they do. I mean, for goodness sakes, they carry their entire house on their back everywhere they go. And so, I feel like turtles deserve a little bit of praise and acknowledgement of the effort and the love that it takes to take care of their space, and to have the patience of moving through life, of just holding that patience in their hearts.
I think that's the lesson that we take from turtles. Is although we carry everything with us in our little shells, we don't always have to hide away. We can carry them with pride. We can carry everything that's going on and say, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, it's heavy, but I'm going to move slowly and I'm going to get there in the end. No matter how long it takes me, we will always survive. We'll always get through. Just as the turtle always manages to reach the beach every year to lay its eggs. And on that note, I think we
also turtles grow. As the turtles grow, their homes grow too. So they really
Sorry. Okay. Well, it's been a very enlightening conversation.
It's been absolutely lovely, Aaron. Thank you for this amazing discussion about life and turtle. And the allowance for self-expression, it's so important, and the healing energy that comes with laughter. So I hope if you guys have enjoyed the laughter from today, take that beautiful energy and just continue to live inspired and motivated to live in unconditional love and judgment-free action and yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we will be back at the same time next week. And over the next couple of weeks as well, we will have some special guests joining us to talk about everything from reality and personal perceptions to aliens and alien life and wisdom from hidden realms that we can't consciously access, or can we? And see where the journey takes us. But for now, let's bring the conversation to not an end, but to a pause for the next week until we come back again and continue the quest of finding Shangri-La. Well, thank you for joining me tonight, Kristen. And it's been an absolute pleasure, as always.
Absolutely. Beautiful and enlightening.